no one would leave.
Yeah.
Because they think he kept coming out or they were going to wait for him. And somebody actually had to come out and say, Elvis has left the building. And I didn't realize that.
It's really funny.
But yeah, that was pretty amazing. Yeah, that kid, he's a fantastic actor. And, I mean, he was Elvis, man. Whew. He was Elvis. So what's the scoop on the latest game of the century?
Hey, Coach, can you just talk
I don't know how many game of the centuries we played, but this is another
One
one.
a year?
Usually 1 or 2 a month, I think.
Yeah. Can you just talk about what it's like in the locker room before you go out into face a big game like you have coming up tomorrow?
I don't think there's any particular pattern to it. What you try to do with your team is to have a routine where it's the same for every opponent. Unfortunately, the players look at the schedule and then they'll say, okay, well, this game means more than this game, or that game means more than that game, or that team's better than that team, or, you know, if enough people say that's a big game, then, you know, it's like, oh my God, it's a big game. And that's when you act like that, that's when you get beat by teams that you have no business losing to, you know. So you try to create a scenario where it's always the same, but obviously, inside them, and some teams get very quiet, some teams get louder. Sometimes you can feel the pressure in the locker room. Sometimes you can't, depending on the kind of team you have. I think I can get a better feel for our team the more the season goes on. But I'd like for them to think that we're playing a really good team Saturday night, and so are they. And let's just leave it at that. They're putting together a scouting report on what they think will be effective against us, and we're putting together a scouting report on what we think will be effective against them. And then, we'll see which one of us is able to convince our players to execute that better than the other guys. So that's basically what, all these games come down to, basically. And who's going to make more shots, us or them? You get all the scouting report you want, and it's, ball goes in, you have a chance to win. You make 23s, you have a chance to win. You go 3 for 20, you probably don't have a chance to win. So,
does Easy have a chance to play?
I think the word is questionable, probable, doubtful.
Foreseeable. Game time decision.
All of the above.
Doable.
Doable.
It can happen.
So you're saying there's a chance. So questionable.
I'm saying there's a chance.
Okay.
And my best Jim Carrey. I'm saying there's a chance. Yeah. I know she wants to play.
You've always talked through the years that the great players get you to the big games, and that lots of times it's a second, third kid on the team who's going to make the difference. I mean, do you like the way your team is playing right now? Do you have that second, third, fourth kid who can?
Well, you don't know that until you actually really know that, and you feel really comfortable with that. I would like to say that when you play in a really good game against a really good team, you're trying your best to make sure that the players that can hurt you the most on the other team, that you can somehow contain them. Obviously, they're trying to do the same thing to us. So you go into every game thinking our best options may struggle, and then you need other people to step up. And yet the funny part about it is if your best player plays really well, that kind of takes a little pressure off your second, third, and fourth guys if you have that many. And then they play well. So do we have that yet? I mean, I think Sarah and Paige have separated themselves, and I think they know, and everybody on our team knows, that they can carry us in difficult situations, that they can bail us out when we need it, that they can make plays that have to be made when we need it. And then everyone else has kind of taken their turn, you know? So, you know, we'll see tomorrow. You know, I'm actually looking forward to it. You know, I think these games are great. You know, I was excited about playing the Carolina game, the Louisville game, the Ole Miss game, the Iowa State game, the Notre Dame game. I think all these games are great opportunities, you know, for your individual players and for your team as a whole.
Nika was your guys' defensive energy for her
Yeah.
career here, and was the go-to defender a lot of the time. So now that she's gone, do you feel like you guys have that person, or is it more so like a team defensive effort, especially when you're talking about going up against a player like Juju Watkins?
Yeah, I think both. We know we don't have anyone of that mindset, that mentality that Nika brought. But I think we can kind of, mix it up a little bit. You take your turn, you take your turn, you take your turn. But when it's all said and done, it does end up becoming the better your team defense is, the better it works. And even after you do everything that you want to do in your scouting report, like for instance, the Iowa State game, we said, okay, we're going to work really, really hard to make their big kid work exceptionally hard to get her points. Well, she still got her points anyway, but it was really hard, and she had to work really hard. And we said, we're going to let that happen because we can't stop her, but we're going to really limit their threes. Well, they were averaging 9, they made 7. So as hard as you try, sometimes the team's going to get what they normally get. You just have to try to make them get it a different way, expend a lot of energy doing it. But what really separates the game plans is, if you make enough shots because if you do everything right on the game plan and don't make shots, you're going to lose anyway. So yeah, our team has to guard USC's team, and individuals will take turns being matched up against their best players, but it's got to be great team defense, which is what I thought we had the other night.
No matter how hard I know you try to make it, to present it as our team against their team, everybody knows it's Paige and Juju, right? That's the way these things are always going to be perceived. How do you kind of address that with your team during the week, and particularly with whoever that player is, in this case Paige, that it's not you against her?
Well, who do you think is going to win tomorrow night? Which team do you think is going to win tomorrow night? Well, if we already knew, we wouldn't play the game, right? So let's say Paige gets 40 and Juju gets 40. Who do you think is going to win tomorrow night? So is it really Paige versus Juju? It's not really. Now, if we just didn't show up and let them go to the XL Center and play one-on-one, but that's not the way it's going to happen. So I do think both of them are going to have a tremendous effect on the game. And again, how they affect the game is going to be really, really important. And I did address that. As a matter of fact, I addressed it again today, that the narrative is, Paige versus Juju. But is it really? I mean, because again, like I said, they could both play awful, and one team wins and one team or the other team wins in spite of that. They could both play phenomenal, and they get more production from somebody else, or we get more production from somebody else. I thought Juju played great for them last year, and I just thought we had more production from more people. And I think that's what we're gonna need more. We're gonna need that. I don't think we can rely on, hey Paige, You guard Juju and you shut her down and you outscore her by a lot. I don't know that that's realistic. It's like I laugh when two great football teams play together and they have two great quarterbacks and they make it this quarterback against that quarterback. They're never even on the field together at the same time. So I just think the narrative, and it's sexy and it's fun and it's great to argue about, but at the end, let's put it this way. With 5 minutes to go, I hope both of them have control of the game. Then we'll see what happens. I hope both of them take turns controlling the game. That would be fun to watch.
They're a different team than last year, just kind of like you guys are, and they have a lot of freshmen, more inexperienced players. So what have you noticed about just how they are working with some of the transfers?
They are different. They are different. And they are young, as we are. They've added, some people as we have, obviously. I don't know what the status is of Kennedy Smith. I haven't checked. I don't know. So I don't know whether she's playing or not. But she's been a big help to them. Obviously, Kiki's been a big help to them. Obviously they've lost a lot of experience. A lot of, you get fifth-year seniors. That's huge, right? So yeah, I think they're going through some of the same things that we're going through. They've got a great player. They've added another terrific player. Kind of sounds like us, right? And playing through some of the young guys' mistakes, and that's why games like this, you're almost kind of like, okay, we're going to play these guys again in March, so let's see, let's see how we stack up. Let's see how they stack up.
Why was it important just to create this series and have it? You guys just played 6 months ago, but why was it important to have this home and home?
We're always trying to do that. We're always trying, and I think we've been pretty successful for the most part in spreading out who our opponents are and trying to hit as many areas of the country as we can, as many leagues as we can. I think like anything else, when these young coaches get jobs. I showed you how old I am. Lindsay was a camper of mine back in the day, and so I've known her since she was like 15 or 16, and we've been great friends ever since. And we talk about all the time. Hey, anytime you want to come out, play, let us know. And obviously we're going to say yes to come back there. So this was we played them before when she was at Cal. We did a home and home with Cal. And I don't know that this will be the last time that we play these two. I'm hoping that it becomes more common. Obviously the distance is a problem with teams like this, but I think it's great. I wish we could continue this more than 2 years, and I'm going to work hard to do that.
You said after the last game that Ice played great. What was it that you liked in her game? And
she didn't take a lot of dumb shots. She didn't make any mistakes that cost us. She didn't get herself in foul trouble. So she eliminated a lot of the things that get in the way, and her defense was unbelievable. Again, it may not look like it because the kid got what she got, but I think there were so many possessions where instead of them having an opportunity to get a bucket, we ended up coming up with a ball and then getting a three at the other end. That's like a 5-point, swing for them. And she created a lot of those for us. So, everybody on our team's got a strength, and she played to her strengths the other night.
With the update on Yana, just how is she doing? Is there any, what's she looking at in terms of a timeline and recovery?
Well, she doesn't look as good today as she did the day after the surgery because the drugs have worn off. So the smile, she's not smiling as much as she was a couple days ago. But my guess is that according, the doctors think it's that in 6 months she'll be 100% ready to go. Back to basketball. That's what they're predicting. And I know Yana will work her butt off for it. It's just, there's been so many of those. She's been like the new version of AZ, something weird stuff happens to Yana, and I'm really pulling for her because those 5 or 6 days that she practiced with us, I mean, the difference is like so stark, of what she brings that we don't have. Nobody's fault, but it's just she's just different, way different than everybody else.
Just athletic and physical.
Just how strong she is and how aggressive she is, and how many things she impacts defensively, rebounding, running the floor. Her energy is just infectious, Yeah, that was so evident, She had been away for so long that, and yeah, it got everybody excited, like, wow, one more thing that we can add, and then that's it.
You have 2 people up for the Hall of Fame. You think they might be
do?
able to sneak in?
Yeah? Who?
Sue and Maya, both are
Sue and
eligible
Maya.
this year.
Really? I thought you had to be out 5 years.
I changed it. It's 2 now.
To how many?
2
2?
seasons. Yeah.
When did they announce this?
Yesterday.
Really? Wow. That's actually pretty amazing, right? Wow. Wow. That is really cool, huh? I mean, it's. I couldn't even imagine when you're a kid, growing up and you play, and then somebody after all these years decides that you had the kind of career that you're in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. I can't imagine what that feels like. I think when you're a coach, it's a little bit different. You surrounded yourself with pretty good players, and you coach long enough and you win a lot of games. But when you're a player and you got to go out there every night and you got to prove it, and then you do, and both of them are just, man, you're talking about 2 of the all-time best players in the history of college basketball and the WNBA, and that's just, and the Olympics. You just don't. Yeah. Wow.
If they were to get in, that would give you 4.
Well, I mean, that helps explain the 11 banners. I think coaches that don't have those 4 probably don't have 11 banners. But somehow or another, those 2 things go together. But yeah, that would give us 4.
One of the best emails I ever got was from a fan criticizing you, saying he's never won a championship without a great player.
They're absolutely true. Tell them Coach Auriemma agrees with you. He should only recruit mediocre players and then try to win a national championship.
Right.
Yeah. But I've actually coached a lot of mediocre players, and I like it better the other way.
What do moments like tomorrow bring out in Paige? I mean, you don't know what you're going to, whatever you're going to get production-wise, but what do you know you're going to get when she wakes up?
Whoa, you all right there? Huh? You always have it in the back of your head. You worry a little bit about, does it become too I have to do this, and then all of a sudden you forget what makes you who you are, and you try to do more than you need to do because you feel like you have to live up to the bigness of the game, when the best players that we've ever had, they just rolled into these games like it was, this is what I do. And in her career, that's kind of what Paige has done. She's pretty much rolled into these games like, this is what I do, this is who I am, this is how I play, and these games give her an opportunity to reinforce in her mind and who she is. It adds to the confidence she already has, So You know, the only downside is she plays great tomorrow night. You know, we win, and then I have to listen to that for the next month or something. That's the only downside to all this.
You'll take that trade.
But I'll take that trade. Yeah.
You have to go oversee more.
Yeah. Go ahead. Good luck.
Gee,
You,
what's it been like coaching Caitlin, someone who played under one of your all-time greats, as an Ivy League educator? Much tinkering there?
Just, you know, it's interesting because she's such a fast learner, obviously, but passes that she threw the last 4 years in our practices, they turn into laps for the other team, and she always has this look on her face like, how'd that happen? And it becomes less and less because she learns so quickly, you know. But if you said to me when she committed to come here, what do you expect? I would say she's been more than I expected, and I expected a lot. You know, from a kid who was player of the year in her league, used to winning, having to compete in the NCAA tournament, usually against better teams, better players, and it's interesting because in the Louisville game, when AZ needed to come out, and everybody's just kind of staring at the court, you know, during the timeout. The only one who wasn't fazed by it, generally, was Caitlin. She just sat there, looking at everybody, shaking her head, and going, "You guys need to lock in right now. We got to finish this." I mean, just I think she has that quality in her that's why I think she'll make a great pro. But yeah, I think she would have been like this no matter who she played for. But yeah.
Coach, with Ashlyn, she had a great game the other day with all the threes. Do you think that she's prepared for her to be on the scouting report where they try to push her off the three? Do you think that she can contribute in other ways?
I think she can. I think she can contribute other ways. I believe so. I think she had a night for the ages, obviously, you know, that you dream of, you know, when you're a kid. And does that mean that, you know, every night we can look forward to, you know, her getting 20 at halftime? I don't know if that's realistic, but I just hope that she gained a lot of confidence out of that, and it's great for her and for our team because if she wasn't on other people's scouting report, now she is. So that's one more player that I think the other team now has to pay a little more attention to than they would have normally. But I do think that there's more to Ash than just, you know, standing out on the three-point line and shooting threes.
You had mentioned after the Georgetown game you were very pleased with Paige because she tried too hard against Notre Dame, put herself in difficult positions, and resorted to the pull-up jumper against them. Do you think it was a lesson for her? I mean, can she go into another big game now and figure out a better way to impact it?
I think every team defends you differently, and I think you have to adjust to how you're being defended that day, that night. And you can say, I want to do this, but I think sometimes you have to let the game dictate what makes the most sense for you. If you can't shoot and your game is you have to get to the basket, then you got a problem. You can only play one way. But when you can make shots the way Paige can, you know, her pull-ups is automatic as anything in college basketball. Why would you pass those up to go do something that's a little more difficult? Maybe because I said we have to shoot more free throws or something. I don't know. But I do think that mixing it up and not letting people know, you know, what's coming next, I think that's the key. That's the key.
Paige, just over the last year, but also this season in particular with it, you know, supposedly being her last one, what is the advice you've given her about dealing with pressure? She's talked about having those conversations with you, but how have you kind of navigated her through that?
It's always a weird thing how players interpret pressure. And I'm always leery of talking to players about what I want them to do handling pressure. Because some kids, they're oblivious. And now all of a sudden you put that in their mind and they're thinking about the pressure of, the season, the game, and all that. So I hope that my strongest message to Paige has been, you don't owe anybody anything. If you don't play another game ever at the University of Connecticut, you've given them way more than they bargained for when you got here, regardless of what anybody thinks. But you do need to make sure that you are happy with what you're doing and how it makes you feel. Forget about, one of the unfortunate things about our program is we get too many kids that care too much about what other people think. They're pleasers, they're givers, and they want to, they want your approval. So a lot of the conversations have been, play for your approval. Don't worry about other people's approval. And that's a new concept for her, because she's, she's a pleaser. Stop and sign autographs, sign a picture, go do this event, go do that event. Sure, never no to nobody. So I want the only pressure she feels is the pressure she puts on herself, because she knows she can handle that. That part she can handle.
Is she grasping that? Is
I
that
think
still
so.
a work in progress?
I think so. It'll always be a work in progress, but I think so. And I try not to put any more undue pressure on her, Other than I said today that, this isn't a Juju Page game. I said, thank God Juju's not playing against Page. I mean, it's not Juju Page 101, because Juju will kick her ass, but this is UConn versus Southern Cal. So you can imagine that didn't go over too good.
So many people.
So no pressure, I just kind of tease her a little bit.
You know how to push
Geno,
buttons.
with
I know how to push buttons.
so many people in her ear, like, where do you rank as far as like words resonating? I'm sure you're still right there as her parents,
Yeah, I do think that what's different, coaches talk a lot about what's, and certainly I'm not that old guy, get off my lawn guy, or I wouldn't be doing this, but coaches talk a lot about why kids are different today. What's different is the amount of people and the amount of noise in their brain and their ears and in their life that they can't escape. That's not their fault. I mean, that's just the reality of the world that they live in. And you hope that as a coach, you still have the same impact that you had 30 years ago when they would believe you before they believed their parents. If their parents told them, you should do this, they would say, nah, you're wrong. And I'll tell you an honest to God true story. When my daughter Jenna was in middle school, maybe going into high school, and she was going to play at East Catholic, at Manchester High, and she's doing something, and in our backyard, she's she's got a hoop there, and she's going through some stuff, and I looked at her and I thought, that's weird. So I went up there and I said, hey, listen, what are you doing? She goes, I'm working on this. I go, I don't know, maybe you should try it this way. She goes, my coach told me to do it this way. What the hell do you know? So I just said, you're right, and I just left. So I think, that used to be the case, and I just hope we still have some of that. But it's harder because through no fault of their own, there's just so much. And so you try not to say a lot and hope that it's impactful. And, I think let's put it this way, the more impactful it is, the longer you can stay in this job. When it stops being impactful, then it's time to go.
Did Jen ever say you were right? Did she ever come back and say you were right?
No, come on. She went to school with Sue and Dee. She was here the same years they were. they could never possibly say you're right. Those two words have never been uttered by those guys, and never will be either. You know, and they're both Hall of Famers. And my daughter's a Hall of Famer. She has 3 kids under 14.
It's quite an
So
assignment.
she's a Hall of Famer.